It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, we're not afraid here on Declare Your Independence. Of me, Ernest Hancock, and Dr. Phranq Tamburri for the Trump Report from the Sonoran Desert with Dr. Phranq Tamburri. That's what happens. You can roll your R's if you take Spanish in high school. You know, this is, man, the news is freaking, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
What we did is Donna and I, we went over to our youngest daughter's home on Sunday for her birthday, and then she and her husband went up to Sedona to hang, and we got to watch the boys for a few days, play grandma and grandpa, and I got to feel like a normie. You know, they keep their house so cool. Even in the summer, you got to wear blankets to watch TV. It's ridiculous, but. You know, that's, you know, the way they are. I look at the thermostat, 73. Are you freaking kidding me? I guess they got the money. I mean, you know, wow. But, you know, it was awesome to live as normies, you know, for a while. But we like it when we get out here. I mean, it's just so open, and we love being out on the land. Well, while we were in town, we got a bunch of supplies and some equipment and everything to finish out, you know, a lot of the stuff that we're doing. But Donna got a bunch of plants. Now, she's been planting in, you know, raised beds inside a, you know, it's like it's about a 10 by 20 chicken wired covered frame thing that she has up on railroad ties to kind of cinch it down and not going nowhere. Well, she has these, they're about 4 by 7 raised grow beds that she's prepped with all kinds of wood and put chicken wire on the bottom, then cardboard, and then, you know, a bunch of big logs, then, you know, some compost and dirt, and then we got bunny poop from our neighbors. They have show bunnies, and they got, I don't know, it's like 3 feet high by 20 feet long by 6 feet wide of just bunny poop. And I'm like, damn. And that makes great compost. So along with all our stuff and everything, Donna's ready to plant. So that's one thing she's going to be doing today. Got the little plants and got to have, you know, get them in the ground to grow food. We need food because they don't have EBT food stamps of nobody's going to eat anymore. But by the time they get out here, they be beef jerky because the zombie apocalypse, as they're walking out here, they'll dry up like beef jerky and be no more. But I'm feeling that we need to get ready. Yeah, I'm feeling getting ready time. What are you feeling, Phranq? Getting ready time?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's just you kind of just feel the walls kind of closing in from all sides. Although, you know, I say that kind of tongue in cheek, and not to be, you know, kind of a wise guy, but most of the people in this audience, by the way, welcome back, audience. More torture of the Trump Report, Ernie and Phranq. But I think, you know, we can feel the walls coming in because we're aware of them. We keep track of them. At the same time, I think, and I hopefully this is true, most of us are not dreading those walls as much as maybe we have in the past because we spent all this time to prepare, you know, and a lot of us thought it was going to happen in 2008. And as much as they've kicked the can down, as much as they have, I have to say, I'm almost glad that they did, because at least for me, I was just out of medical school, didn't have the opportunity to prepare as much. And I'm almost thankful to how stupid Americans are in our government kicking the can, because it allowed me another 10 years to prepare. And anyone listening to the show, I don't know how the hell you're listening to the show, listen to you and I argue all this time and not be getting ready. I'm sure everyone out there has been doing, except for whoever some feds are checking in on us.
And the solution is,
you guys should too. You feds are listening. We hope we're helping you out too.
They are.
So
this
please
is one
listen
thing.
to us.
I gotta mention this. This is one thing that we found when we go up to. We did. What was it? It was the. I pushed the button. There we go. Jackalope Freedom Festival in northeastern Arizona. In that area, what we didn't realize is that whole area was populated by retired intelligence guys, CIA, FBI, law enforcement, retiring policemen, any municipal employee, out of Arizona. They go, I know where we're going. Well, when we had the Jackalope Freedom Festival up there, a bunch of damn anarchists in our forest kind of deal. Well, as time went on, we started to get to know the people. I interviewed a lot of the miners, the loggers, the commerce, the retail shops, the restaurants, the ranchers and so on. And it was very obvious what was going on. Everybody up there in Arizona, that's where you go for nice, comfortable. You get, some snow in the winter, but it's not real bad, But you got ski resorts, so that's good. But the main thing has been preparation for what these people in the government know what's coming. They can feel it too, and they want to get a readout of some place where they can all hang and not, be bothered and left alone, and run their local governments and the little towns and the counties. But what has happened is they're feeling it too. It is this federal takeover of the land, the water, everything, building, and the building permits kind of go along with incentives from the federal government for building multi-dwelling homes, apartments, that kind of stuff. The densely packed, they get, benefits for doing that as a municipality as long as they sign on to God knows what. Well, a lot of that is getting pushed back because they're starting to realize how it's affecting their property rights. And we've been seeing this for year after year after decade here in Arizona, and when you travel the country, you see it's the same template. And it's generally, they go in, just like they do to these small Central American, South American countries, the Middle East and Asia, it's the same thing. They get involved and intertwined with your local government. They pass a bunch of, this is what you got to do and can't do, and we rule you, and now we control the dollar. Well, the one thing that I'm going to emphasize today, I want to share with the audience, is how gold has been classified as a Tier 1 high-quality liquid asset. That has not been done before. I didn't know this. People that have gold on their balance sheet, central banks, different countries, and so on, what they want is liquidity, cash they got available to do even overnight. I mean, they get the reserve requirements of got to have it right now, put it on the books and be legal or whatever, and it's all done with U.S. Treasuries. That is cash. That's the world reserve currency. Well, what happens when the BRICS and China and so on, they go, we got another payment system and their sanctions and seizing of money when they seized cash from Russia and the sanctions out there. Whoa. Really? Okay. Well, guess what? We're selling our treasuries. Well, that's been going on a regular basis while they've been buying gold. And what they show that they've been buying is maybe a fraction of what they've actually been buying. So now we're looking at the United States went with, I think it's international, Basel III. Now, I did a bit of a deep dive on Freedom's Phoenix. I just searched Basel, B-A-S-E-L. Boom! We've had stories on there for a decade and a half, 20 years on all the changes that they do. Well, the one that they did most recently is they make gold a high-quality liquid asset, which means that they are limited to 50% that they could use as collateral, whatever, the designation that gold had previously. Now it's 100%. What does that mean? That means Treasury bills don't have to be, the choice of how they make exchanges with.
It's not the only
companies.
option. Yeah, it's not the only option.
Yeah, now it's gold, and it's going to
can
hold,
be, or can be.
not
And
go up.
It can be, and it just opens it up. So it's still one of the only true options that banks now can use for collateral, which was never done before. I mean, it should have been.
Well, not as
but
100%. And what happened? They did this in July of 25. I didn't know this. When this came up, it was some research on China and their debt and how they're banning the dollar again. And well, they did the gold down. Whoa! How did I miss that one? And because they don't want you to know. That's what it is.
Right.
It's not common. But so now we have silver is starting to balance out a little bit. They're shipping tons, from America to London so that they can meet their requirements of people want their silver. And silver is an industrial metal. They're like, yeah, we're not playing futures. We're not playing derivatives. We're not playing ETFs. We're not playing. You know what we need to play? We need to play with some physical silver and roll around in it, and it's ours and we can use it in industry. So things are changing rapidly. The smokescreen for all of this is Trump goes on his international mission of shaking hands with Kim Jong grandson. We're going to build condos or whatever the hell they're going to do. They go to Japan. They have the first prime minister female that is there, but how long is she going to last? I was talking to Corbett about it last night, and he goes, I'd be surprised if she lasts 6 months. Prime ministers come in and out here all the time.
Really? That was his thinking. Yeah, I'm really curious about his viewpoint. I respect a lot. He's living in Japan, obviously. So what other thoughts did he have about it?
That the primary ruling party has been there for 60 whatever years since World War II anyway. And it's different factions of that party, a little more conservative here, a little less there. And she's kind of been taking on the Margaret Thatcher type of right-wing kind of role. We're gonna fix it and get some. Well, we'll see. There's definitely she was about limiting immigration because they're like, damn, America, damn Americans coming over here and being American, and even as tourists. So they're kind of getting the xenophobic, which they've always been anyway. But they got to deal with the aging population. 10, 20 years, their population is going to start plummeting, and they don't have the replacement population or to be able to fund all of the entitlements they've given the older generation. So they need robots. Well, that's coming. And I've been watching some, just do a search and say, all right, give me the latest tech on robots. And you watch an hour and a half of, oh my God, China is building armies, and Tesla's getting ready to do their army. But Tesla is working on it a lot differently, making it a lot smarter, and it's all about the hand. Can they manipulate any and everything a human can? Well, when that happens, I have no idea what's going to happen. You're going to be hearing a lot about universal basic income, socializing everything, and the election that's going on in New York City. And I think Tuesday is the election for governor in Virginia and New Jersey, where the Democrats, they keep pushing off, stopping the shutdown. The first thing was, because we can. And then they go, we're going to do it up until the No Kings protest that they had. And that kind of was a flop. And okay, well, then we'll wait for the EBT thing. When you shut off the food, and then you get Trump coming out and saying, well, Trump says the SNAP benefits will be solved for next month. Why? Is this, they're going to be negotiating, capitulating on, I don't care, doesn't matter, I'm out in the desert. And I am, it's not, I have to beat these guys, I just have to outlast them. So that's kind of where I'm at. And with my friends and family in the audience, it was screaming, buy silver, buy silver, buy silver. I don't think it's still too late to get into precious metals, but You missed the run-up, I promise you. So, here we go. Oh, my God, silver's down to 49 now. I'm like, yeah. So, well, and the long game that China and the BRICS are playing, I don't know what, and then they come up with this stable coin thing just to make the transactions faster and cheaper but they tie it to the dollar, which means treasuries, which they're abandoning. I don't see how this plays out. And then this bailout of Argentina was for some gazillionaires that bet on the bonds of Argentina that are going down and wiping these guys out. So they go to Trump, 40 billion to our friends over in Argentina would, make us feel better, seeing as how we love you, Trump. Boom. That's what he does. During the middle of a government shutdown. Where the hell did he get this money? He didn't go to Congress. It was
and a bailout to someone who's a libertarian president. I mean,
right.
It's just, it just smelled from high heaven about that one whole too. But you're talking about that. Notice.
First, I want to make sure people know where he got the money. It was their plunge protection team, extra
Right.
little over here piggy bank money that nobody knows about that they've used like 3 or 4 times. In '95, they used it to bail out Mexico's peso, and we bought pesos. That's what he did. He took the money and just bought, $40 billion in pesos or something, to kind of shore up their economy. It's such a bad look, certainly to libertarians that know where this goes. And I'm just, it's going to be Monday someday. It won't happen all at once, but it will happen overnight. And Ernest Hemingway goes, slowly at first and then all of a sudden all at once. This is what we've been talking about. Well, it's here. So got to take our own advice, and we were not planning on really getting serious about agricultural growth here, but because we're going to do it in the ground, and we have, the water thing going on and so on. But Donna, she's like, well, no, we got to get producing food now. So we've been spending the last couple of weeks on getting her all set up, and now she bought a bunch of plants that she'll be planting in the soil that she prepared. And that's why we needed to get more IBC totes so that we could distribute water around the property, get ready for some of the trees that we want to plant, building the Zuni bowls that capture the water from the water that we captured. Because I don't want to just accumulate it into the sand dam, then have to pump it everywhere. Well, hell, I'll just get it to go where I want to go to begin with, and then the extra, which there's extra during floods, I guarantee it, then we'll have that. So we're really enjoying it out here. There'll be more videos that we'll be posting today for Miranda to make for this week's video and to show you where we're at. But we keep having to, do another layer and another incorporation of different things and tech and utilities and infrastructure on the dome that we're building now. It's going to be nice, but it's a test dome to be able to experiment a lot of things while we're preparing the pad, which we take the soil from the sand dam and put it on the pad. I got to raise it up a couple of feet for the housing build. Now that's a 70-foot radius, so that's like 140 feet around. That's a lot of soil, and I'm about halfway done with that. So there's a lot of just boring things that we're doing. Oh, Ernie's on his tractor moving dirt again, Oh, he's building another mound. Oh, he's arguing another hole. Oh, he's putting another layer. I mean, it's just stuff. Well, that's what we're demonstrating to people, that we really are taking on a big chunk, 18 acres. And we're really kind of focusing on maybe like 5 acres that, probably not half of it, 9 acres with a real focus intensity on a few of those acres. But it's all parallel efforts that converge in the future, and you're done. So that's what we're working on, but it's a demonstration of our concern. No fear, no fear, no fear, but our relative concern on what's coming to the world. You got all these people talking about it. Where's the solution? You're not going to vote yourself out of this thing. I don't feel, the government's going to be doing it. They can't. And they're so infiltrated at the local and county levels, the local municipalities, the county levels. It is just, you can sit there and watch this slow motion train wreck, and what can you do? Well, being right doesn't mean anything. You got to be prepared. So that's what we're doing. What are you doing, Phranq?
Oh, well, I do want to talk about that. I just have to point one thing out. The one horrible thing for you. We have Halloween coming up tomorrow. How many trick-or-treaters are we about to get where you're at?
Uh, None.
Some of those roaming zombies. That's about it. Yeah. That's how far away Ernie is. No trick-or-treaters. Well, look, it's interesting. We're talking about just for commodities, because when things usually fall apart, it always comes down to commodities, right? So, kind of a rehash a little bit of what we've been seeing. Obviously, the metals are going up. It's interesting how there's talking about, it'll go up 200% and pull back 5% on a week, and then suddenly it's a crash, right? I mean, obviously, this is what happens during a bull market. Peter Schiff even said, give him a quote. He had a nice little quote where he says that when you have a bull market going up, the downs are harder, and when a market is going down, the ups are stronger. So it always magnifies the opposite direction when you go on there, and that's true. You see any kind of market, but you look at commodities. Obviously, commodities are all going up. Especially, we'll just take a look at just gold and silver. Now, many people, I think, who are the normies are looking at this as if gold and silver is a stock. All the stocks are going up and everything's going up. Well, yeah, it's all going up when it's based on the dollar and dollar's inflated. But I'm sure this audience already knows this. Gold, especially gold, is the thermometer with the economy. So the economy is doing well, and the stocks are doing very well. Gold should be very benign and boring, and no one's involved in it. When gold goes up, it usually means the economy is sick. So this is where something is up, where when you have all the stock market going all full cylinders and gold's up at the same time, it means one of them is lying to us. One of those indicators is lying. So that's number one. Then you have, of course, Powell. Who we have to talk about him, and maybe not much there's talk about him, except he's just a lying whatever. He knows what's going on, and everyone knew he was going to lower interest rates again. Was a 0.25 basis points again, but he's also talking about quantitative easing. Now he's doing it through the mortgage markets or something, but regardless, he's already signaling more money printing, which is interesting because you would think that if the economy is doing very well, right, with the stock market, everything's doing really well, well, typically that means the economy is running hot. If it's running hot, what do you do with interest rates? You typically increase them, right, to slow down the economy. So why, if we have an all-time highest stock market and real estate market in some areas, that's a whole other conversation, and everything else is high, then why in the heck are we lowering interest rates? I mean, that should be another tell in itself, right? Because that's another discombobulation and distortion of what you normally see. Now, Powell pointed out the other day, he goes, well, the reason we're doing it's not typical and blah, 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 but it's different this time. What's going on? Not that the economy is broken, it's because of AI, is that AI is forcing so many jobs to be lost, like we're seeing that with Amazon, and YouTube's about to fire a whole bunch of people. Just watch that one. I'm predicting that one. There's some major stuff going over on YouTube. They're even offering early buyouts to like tons of their employees. So they're switching all over to AI, and you'll probably hear stuff about that too. But the thing is that they're claiming that AI is going to cause so much job loss that they're trying to get ahead of it by lowering interest rates to allow people to invest more into companies to help compensate for everyone losing their jobs from AI. How much do you believe that one, Ernie? I'm just yes or no.
Compensate from losing their jobs to AI? How are they getting compensated?
In other words, since the economy is running hot, the interest rates should be increased. That's what it should be, and everything's normal. But instead, he's lowering interest rates. So he's lowering interest rates when the economy's running hot. That's not what normally you do. So how would Powell justify lowering interest rates when the economy, at least on the surface, looks like it's running really good, right? Unless it's a fake economy and the stock market's about to crash, but they don't want to admit that. So how is he justifying lower interest rates when the economy is running hot? That's a contradiction. So his response was, well, we're trying to get ahead of all the job losses from AI. So when AI, because all these jobs are about to be cut and we're already seeing it and it's going to keep going. So personally, I think this is just an excuse for lowering interest rates that they're forced to do, right? Like Peter Schiff would say, and most of us know, the Fed is boxed into a corner, can't do anything really except lower interest rates and print more money, right? But the thing is they have to explain it without saying, oh, well, we're boxed into a corner and we're going to inflate our way to infinity, so you should all just buy a bunch of commodities and gold. I mean, that's what they should be saying, because that's if they're telling the truth. But instead, they have to, every time they lower interest rates, and they have to act as if they're surprised, like this wasn't baked into the cake because they're trapped. So they have to go, well, there is a reason this time it's different. And so the excuse they're giving this time for why they're lowering interest rates, at least partially, is, again, with AI, that so many people are going to be losing their jobs. And this once in a lifetime and a generational shift, seismic shift, because AI, nobody could have seen this coming and all. So with people losing their jobs, we're going to need new businesses to create new jobs for everyone who's losing their jobs because of AI. So we have to, free up money so people can invest more into unique opportunities for people to get jobs. So that's the rationale that he gave for lowering interest rates. When it should be raised, I mean, of all times, right, in theory. Anyway, moving on, we get stuck on the Powell thing, but I thought it was worth bringing up, even though it's kind of a non-issue. We already knew in this audience what the heck they're going to do.
Because what is their goal? Trump's thing, everybody is about a number. The one number that all the Americans see every day on every corner is the price of gasoline and diesel, propane, fuel. And, I don't know how you can measure coal, whether in your electrical prices, but they are looking at some number, some demonstration of everything's fine. Well, Trump looks at the stock market. That's the only thing he cares about. Look how strong we are in the stock market. Why? Because everybody's retirement is in the system. I remember it was the late 90s or something, Bob and I were running for Congress and we were saying our piece and such. And in all the debates, it was like, well, we're going to put a firewall around your Social Security so that we got... And I remember in one of the debates, it was nationwide. This thing was going everywhere. It was, that's a long story. But Bob was the Libertarian candidate, and they were going on about how they're going to put a firewall around your Social Security and not be spending it. You knew they were lying, But he goes, well, I just want to put a firewall around my wallet. How about I put a firewall around my wallet and you don't take it to begin with? Yay! Well, it ain't like that, Well, the main thing is they're just wanting to keep the stock market up because your 401ks, your IRAs, your pensions, your brokerage account, it all is dependent on that. Once that starts to go, it's going to be obvious to everybody, you don't have enough retirement to retire anymore. And then you start dipping into your principal and you can't live on the interest to begin with. Well, now it's going to start going down. When that happens, it's a big, giant robbery of the middle class. All of that and the wealth that transfers from older generations passing it down to their children, we're dealing with that now. There's kind of this Pennsylvania death tax or this death tax of tax if we got a tax, when a lot of this is not to be taxable, but we're going through, I'm like, yeah, whatever. I just want to see what's really going on. And we're getting it firsthand, Donna going through this stuff with Vanguard, that you can see that they're taking the money from the American people every way that they can. Why? To keep the stock market up, to protect the petrodollar, to keep the wheels a turning. Well, then you have this EBT, they don't get food, we promise to, break windows and shoplift and steal food and stuff and kind of be consternation upon thee. Well, what does Trump come back with? We'll take care of that for another month. It's all good. Don't worry about it. Then they got a little money here. They do to pay the military. It's ouch, quit it, ouch, quit it, ouch, quit it. And even if they get a continuing resolution, it's going to happen again. This is not going to go well.
Yeah.
And the only thing that you can count on is what you can count on putting in your mouth to be able to feed. It's going to be a food thing. I'm just saying. It's going to be a food thing.
No, you're completely right. Every day that comes more and more into focus. And I do want to talk about that Prime Act, I think it was, for Thomas Massey. We'll get into that about food. But I want to finish up on the commodity discussion. So first off, we're looking at where the economy is, which, that's a loaded topic. We all know it's not in good shape. But, you see
China's buying soybeans now.
Yeah, exactly. We got that going. But we have these harbingers that are occurring, right? With the lower interest rates when it should be the opposite, with gold going up when it should be the opposite. Like this is a remarkable time for people who study finance, a lot more than me. I'm no expert on this, but to just see that we're in this strange, like, quasi world because there's something underfoot. Call it the reset, transition, something. It's fascinating when you like, 20 years ago, I didn't know enough to even keep track of this sort of thing. But knowing enough of these indicators, and you start to learn what you normally see. It's kind of like when you get sick, the temperature in your thermometer goes up. When you get better, it goes down. Like, there's certain patterns you see in life. And when you start to go outside, it's kind of, it's like when Ernie and I and Donna, our families got together. It was a beautiful time. We went to see the eclipse. And all of a sudden, the eclipse occurs. And all of a sudden, like, the crickets came out. Remember all that? And, like, the birds went to sleep. And, I mean, for that eclipse time, just, the patterns of nature just seem to be flipped upside down for those special moments. And, by the way, I still have those pictures, the great pictures of us during that time. But anyway, that's kind of what it feels like with the economy. It's like we're going through this transition where things are up, up is down and left is right. Now, let's get to the commodities again. So obviously, this audience, we get the importance of commodities, represents, if nothing else, labor. Granted, you can store that labor in commodities, but the commodities themselves represent the labor, right? It's not a tech job. It's not a service industry. It's not, all the things that people on the left and the the Keynesians believe that is equal to production. As we know, production fuels an economy, not consumption. That's just the bottom line. So therefore, commodities are a thing. Then we get hit with what's been going on, the lack of commodities that we have. Now, farmland and, of course, food is one, but the other are the metals. And isn't it been interesting how much the metals keep coming into play in the last couple of weeks, right? So we have the gold and silver going up. Also, some of the other metals, not to make this all investment advice, of course, but just factly looking at the metals. How many of you guys track palladium or platinum or the other platinum-based metals like ruthenium, rhodium, iridium? Those metals, these metals have gone up crazy stupid. And these are the metals that are used in defense. Right? That's one of the things that I studied on my own. I was always curious. Like, for instance, and a lot of this, my investigation to exotics started as a doctor and someone who likes tech. And I wanted to know, how the hell does a touch screen work on your iPhone? Like, just from a physiological perspective, I couldn't understand how it worked. And it didn't make sense to me. So I spent a few hours looking it up and all the technicals. And it turns out the secret sauce is only one metal. One metal in the world is liquid. You can make it a liquid, and it's transparent, and it conducts a charge, like a bioelectrical charge. Only one metal. And that metal is, drumroll, iridium. Iridium, which only comes from one place, outer space. Meteors, exactly. It doesn't come native to Earth. It's the only element that's not made in Earth, except the ones that we have to make. So, of course, and also for those of you that don't know, the iridium layer is the layer in the geological formation of the Grand Canyon and all, where we know why the dinosaurs disappeared, because there's before and after the iridium layer, there's no dinosaur bones. So that's how we know. That was the confirmation. It was a brilliant, genius way to deduce it. So that's where iridium comes from. It's very limited. So as, for instance, and I'm not telling you guys to invest in iridium. You guys can check out the spot price on iridium on your own. But you sit back and you just question, okay, well, we're putting touch screens in everything. Damn refrigerators. Everywhere you go, there's a touch screen now. Well, you're going to need iridium, and it doesn't come native to Earth. So What do you think that's going to do, as an example? You start looking at some of these other metals. If you look at ruthenium, ruthenium is a massive metal that's used in AI data centers. So those of you want to know why, if you guys look at ruthenium, take a look at rhodium. Rhodium is used in a lot of the defense, like for like stealth bombers and things like that. Things that I don't have the knowledge about exactly how. It's all top secret, but you do kind of know what the technology to for the cloaked components of these ships. They have to find these exotic metals and coat the entire bottom of these planes so that they can avoid radar. That's how they're doing it. I'm not sure exactly which metal. I've got a few hints on that. But anyway, this is why, for instance, China doesn't want to sell us all of the exotic metals. They're like, look, we'll sell you enough of them so you can get by, but why should we sell you to capacity of what you guys demand? Because you're, first off, going to be using them to make the military that you're going to come after us when we finally decouple from the dollar. Why are we going to give you the metals to make missiles and bombs to come destroy us when BRICS says goodbye to the treasury? So can't blame them, right? And then on top of that is the AI war, right? We have an AI war, apparently is what we're being told. Whoever controls AI, whoever dominates AI controls the world. So at the end of the day, what do you think a metal like rhodium is going to do, right? I mean, it's like whoever has the rhodium is going to make the AI data centers, and you can control everything, including, not to get into the whole gold versus Bitcoin deal, but, whoever controls the internet enough and holographic, quantum computing and everything else is going to be whoever has these kind of data centers. And then you can control, at that point, perhaps you have 51% and you can control the code or hack Bitcoin or some other crypto. So, I mean, the entire future, at least, seems to be with this anxiety of AI data centers, while the metals are important to that. So, I guess I've studied, and Ernie knows this, and Tim Pachote knows, I've kind of studied these metals in the past over different reasons. I always found them just fascinating, and whether people invest in them, it's a different story. There's exotic metal mines that you can invest in, things like that. But it's an industry to learn about if you want. But all of a sudden, it's funny, this industry no one ever cared about, and that I knew probably was going to be an issue because all the green energy laws prevent mining in America. But, this is not mining just for copper. This is mining for things that actually are the defense of the, well, I don't want to call it, let's call it the offense of our country. Obviously our world political views of trying to be the world policeman is not something I agree with. But for the way the government sees it, it's an absolute necessity. But yet what happens one day if China or Africa or these countries decide not to give us the metals? I mean, that's like instant war over metals.
Which has happened.
Exactly. And it's something, now they'll find probably some other excuse to, some kind of a Gulf of Tonkin or some reason to get us into a war. But at the end of the day, it could be for metals like this. So, and the reason I think this is really heating up over the metals is just think in the last week or so, how many times metals have come up in the news that I wonder if Ernie, I'm not trying to challenge you, how much you've even watched. And again, I just might have an ear for this because, it's kind of one of my interests. But let's go through. One, Ernie knows this. Why did the stock market crash? Was it a week or 2 weeks, whatever it would have been? It's when Trump made that tweet. Why? He said he's going to double the tariffs on China. Why? It was over the exotic minerals, or they call rare earth. I call them exotics. But anyway, the rare earth minerals, right? If you really, a lot of people don't even understand what happened there. It was the rare earths. China says, no, we're going to throttle it back 20 or 30%. And that was the cap for the military and the AI centers. So, of course, Trump goes ballistic, does that tweet. And then what does he do in the meantime? I don't know if how much this is baked into the cake, but that's when Trump does his international tour of the Pacific Theater, right? He doesn't go to Europe. He winds up, I don't think so. He winds up, he went there a little bit. He sold, the king and all. But it was a while ago. He goes where? He goes to Australia. And he's hanging out with Australia, right? And what did I report on the Trump Report last week? A little known fact. He wound up negotiating a rare earth metals deal with Australia. Now, I don't know what he gave Australia, except probably that we're going to create the defense and defend you, which I can't blame them, because Australia, I covered this last week, is the only Western type nation, European-like Western nation that's in the Asia Pacific theater. It's the only country down there, down under. And so if this becomes East versus West, and it's Europe and America versus Asia, well, Australia is really in a bad spot to be defended from that perspective. So they're part of the Five Eyes, I guess Five Eyes, right? They're part of it. They're all, they comply with America. So I think they were guaranteed our, protection in response for the rare earths, which we need to protect them. So I think that was one part of the deal that Trump realizes he's losing.
That's all excuse.
He's losing that 20-30%, so he's got to make up the difference. So he goes to Australia and he gets rare earths from them, and I covered that because they weren't even talking about much on the news. Then he goes to Japan, and you're talking to James, and I'm not sure if he even knew about it, but it turned out in Japan, part of the deal was, drumroll, rare earth metals. So Trump got another deal from Japan so we can start mining there, or at least, help their miners. And we're going to cash in or take a lot of buy from them their rare earth metals. So we've got Australia, and now we have Japan. And I think there was another country I read in there somewhere as well. This is all in the last week or so.
How about America?
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, you guys he's got to get rid of all the green energy. Probably the problem with America is, remember, when you start a new mine, it takes 10 years. It's an automatic decade before it becomes
Let me
productive.
inject here. There's a lot more rare earth availability here in America as a byproduct of a bunch of other mining. They have the tailings in Georgia from whatever the heck they're doing. There's a bunch of rare earth minerals just sitting there. They have other places in America where there's a bunch. It's not accessibility to these minerals. It is the processing of it. And China has enormous processing capacity. Well, what they found out is that, even the raw materials that they don't have in China, which they do, but if people are shipping it over there for them to process it. Well, they just need to, increase processing here, which is one of the things that's happening. They have sources of the material just in tailings from a lot of the mining going on for other stuff. So that's what's being targeted. It's processing. What they need to do is just get enough access to the rare earths for them to do manufacturing in the U.S. now as they start to bring manufacturing back here, but it's the processing. So the same thing with lithium. It's all about the processing. What we've done is we've shipped all our manufacturing and processing of raw materials, everything somewhere else. We can get it for a couple of cents less per whatever, if they do it in China and the businesses make without any regard to national security. So that's where a lot of this businessman Trump stuff is getting involved in the economy and in what they determined to be national security mining process. This has happened before. They've done it since World War II. We have to have, that's how the steel industry was supported, to the point that by the 90s, the mass production of steel was being done in Japan because they had to innovate. Well, they developed a continuous process. You just keep putting in raw material at one end of the refinery and, steel just pumping out the other end on a continuous thing, as opposed to doing batches like you see with the big giant, cauldrons that they're doing and pouring steel in Pittsburgh or whatever. So it was propped up by the government over and over and over, where they did not have to modernize their production. So this has to be addressed. Well, are they going to do it with AI, automation, robots? Of course. The world is going to be totally different here directly. Where's the bleed? The bleed is subsidizing. The bleed is subsidizing food, subsidizing, investment. When you got the United States government of America now owns 10% of Intel, what the shit is that about? We are going down on every principled basis that libertarians have been warning about, the malinvestment, where money goes, the reasons why, the push and pull of politics, the inclusion of decisions that are based on, my friend doesn't get bombed out of existence on the billions that they put into the pesos in Argentina. We're going to bail them out. This does not end well. I don't give a crap. His perspective is that of a rich guy, thinking that the rich guys run, the people and trickle down of everybody, kind of too big to fail of whatever. Freedom is the answer. What's the question? Just give the American people the freedom to innovate, to invest, to keep, that which is theirs, and then just step the F back and let it happen. No, there's no faith in a free market, and it's going to be to our detriment. Now, they keep thinking short term. They keep thinking quarterly. They keep thinking the next election. Because the next election that's coming up that's going to try and give a shot in the arm to the Democrats is the Virginia and New Jersey election for governor coming up this next Tuesday. That is, they're going to build on that. And then you got New York mayor and all of that. I'm in the freaking desert of the desert southwest Arizona desert of I don't give a crap. These things are not going to affect us unless Donna doesn't get her inheritance from her mother's estate out of the market. That is I don't even care how much it is. Well, it's not a gazillion dollars, but I'm just, it's enough. And I'm going, look, her and her two brothers, one is a retired Navy guy and worked in Norfolk refurbing submarines and whatever. He made a good living as an engineer. And her other younger brother is a VP at Moody's. So we have interesting conversations. And his wife, she is a webpage editor for a large media consortium out of Manhattan. So this is the perspective of our extended family, and then, of course, my family and so on, is varied, wide, and different. We all love each other. It's all good. But they're starting to come around. They're like, damn. I'm like, yeah, damn's right. Well, they're doing the same thing. Got to get it out of the stock market, out of the Vanguard account, out of any kind of susceptibility to whatever, and just as fast as possible, either just pay off bills and, get all, out of debt and whatever, or silver. And whatever's left over from doing that, silver. Why? Is it going to go up, down? Don't know. It's not going to go to freaking zero, I can tell you that, And then if you take that and you put it into not just food, but food production, not just a house, but land that you can occupy the land with. This is going to be more and more common. I'm starting to see on the internet, they're talking a lot about van living and RVs and tiny houses and all that kind of stuff, which is cool, but it's out of a lack of choice. They're going to Generation Next saying, look, this is how best to survive what's coming. This is how best to get out of your student debt. This is how best to have a stress-free or much less stress life. This is the answer to what's coming. That's why you're seeing all this stuff. It's humanity freaking keeping on. That's what's going on. And we're trying to help inspire that. And there's no stigma to it. It is investing in the future for your family to have a place to keep breathing in and out. Because those don't want you to keep breathing in and out until after, they'll keep you going as long as it takes for them to take everything you have for end of life care, for health care, which is shot to the freaking moon because you're not allowed to take care of yourself. And I look at this stuff, and when I'm talking to my grandkids about, whatever cereal that's toxic waste. What about that's toxic waste? Papa is always a toxic waste guy. Well, they're doing a lot better, and they're learning how to preserve and how to cook differently and so on. Our family is very representative of those that are aware, that know that we're not freaked out or under stress because we've prepared for it more than others, but it's not going to go unnoticed by our family. And it's nice to have a backup place to just keep breathing in and out and be with friends and family. Occupy the land.
Yeah. So, by the way, what do you know about? I don't know much about it, Ernie. I mentioned you off the show. Thomas Massey discussing the. Let me pull it up here. The Prime Act kind of segues to what you're talking about. The Prime Act. So it says how the Prime Act could Uberize the food system. So there's a video here. It's linked up on Freedom's Phoenix. Joel Salatin discusses Kentucky Congressman Thomas Massey's Prime Act and how it could revolutionize the food system in America. Not only would the act allow for food growers to open up their locally produced meats to a direct sale market that the USDA has locked out, it would make their products more affordable and available at a lower entry point. The Prime Act would allow customers to have access to healthier food while developing relationships with the local farmers. So I don't know much about it. I just heard about it today, and thanks, Ernie, for posting it. Of course, if it comes from Thomas Massey, I pretty much trust, without having to read much about it, at least I go into it by trusting the idea. But it segues to what you're talking about, because when this whole system of controls collapses, it's going to be the local communities, the local farms, and of course they have more and more regulations thrown on them, in ways that people don't even realize. And and getting rid of these regulations and something like the Prime Act that just opens it up obviously would be beneficial. By the way, competition's a sin, didn't you know?
Yep. David Rockefeller said that. They're trying to eliminate competition is what they're doing, and the Prime Act opens it up. That happened here in Arizona with wait for it, the wine industry. Here in Arizona, they have various different elevations and parts that's very good for growing wine. Well, this industry kind of popped up, and the market for the wines coming out of Arizona was they wanted to do it online. Well, there's regulation, you're freaking not allowed. Well, that became a big thing to where they opened that up, and state laws and federal kind of whatever, and I don't remember what the final result of that was, but I think it opened it up. The Institute for Justice got into a suit on it and whatever. So opening that up is akin to Amish meat, raw milk, all this other. The food is out there.
Hey, by the way, did you ever hear what happened to that court case with the Amish family? I know that one, the libertarian attorney was helping them with it. Did it ever settle yet with the Amish meat?
Yes, I don't remember what happened, but I think it was a Trump administration. Yeah, we're not doing it anymore. We're not going to prosecute, or I don't remember. It was kind of because the Amish came out for Trump, so I guarantee they
first time they voted. I wonder why.
But this is what the Prime Act is basically doing. It's going, look, those that produce are allowed to sell. Well, you got to go through the regulation of we'll do that's all just industry control BS, and we're not playing that game anymore. If they do this, it's going to have a big impact on a lot of stuff, because a lot of these people that they only have their opening is a local market, or they got to go through a distributor that wants low prices. They get to kick it up and inflate, blah 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 blah. When you have producers that have an online, it's like Amazon. I mean, it's going as Your Standard does this. We advertise for them. You go online, you order a big giant pallets full of whatever you want once a month or something, and they deliver to a local garage or carport neighbor of what here in Tonopah. It's on the side of the freaking road, and you go, you get everything, you're done. Well, that is the market for organics. As Your Standard is only organic, and you're going, okay, I'm not being as poisoned. And our kids use a lot of online stuff for, they get their flour for baking. They get, I prefer to not have crickets. I prefer to not be poisoned. I prefer to get it from organic, Fred and Jane over here doing whatever, and they can. This opens that up. Well, I guess I'm sure there's some lobbyists don't like it opened up. And Massey is going to expose this. What role is Trump going to have on this? What's he going to say? Massey's not going to get anything because he didn't vote for my wars. You know, him going after Massey and Rand Paul is just
suicide,
so
political suicide.
Stupid.
It is.
I'm not. Who's his massa? I mean, that is Israel. I mean, this is definitely an Israel thing too. So it always comes back to the third rail Israel.
Yeah, well, because the thing, what do those two have in common, along with Marjorie Taylor Greene, is that they don't want the wars, the endless wars. They're taking Trump at face value of no war or ending the wars. It's just that also includes Israel when it comes to those three, and maybe a few others that are still in the closet. Hey, look, I want to go back real quick to the as far as regulation, agriculture, things like that. This is one I have not told you, Ernie. This is a new story, and it involves my private life that I was talking to you off the air. So just bear with me, Ernie, for a second. So my family, we have a new addition to our family. We have a new bird. I'm a bird guy. I had a cockatiel for a while. And anyway, he died of a tumor, strangely enough. So I wanted a new bird, a really nice one. So I did a lot of research, for one that bonds with all family members, and it's not too big, not too loud, blah, blah, blah. Not too expensive in food. Anyway, the one I chose is called a Pyonis. Most of you know, I never heard of it. It's called a Pyonis. You can Google it if you want. Strangely enough, the Pyonis is the classic bird that pirates, the old pirates and the parrot. Well, this is the parrot that pirates traditionally used, or at least
I like
had
it
with
already.
them. What's that?
I like it already.
Oh, thank you. The pirates, they're a pirate bird. And they're actually quiet, and they're very loyal. They're almost like the bird version of a dog. That's why pirates love them. They're also down in South America, in the Amazon, where, of course, the pirates were at. So anyway.
What's its name?
We don't have one yet. We're working on
it.
Yeah, I know. Arg. Yeah, I got a little 8-year-old with to make sure she's happy. But anyway, the thing is, I was looking for this bird. It took me about a year of research, which Ernie knows. Sometimes I get deep dive into things. But I know this is the bird.
Make a decision.
But when I know what I'm doing, I'm clear about it. So this is the bird I wanted to get. Stick with me, audience, that deals with the government. So I'm all getting ready to get this bird. It was like a year ago. And I go to the dealer, all the bird places around here. I'm like, hey, you guys got one? They go, oh, we don't have any right now. That's kind of odd. We don't have one. But, check back around the springtime. They all told me the same thing. So I go back in the spring. You got a Pyonis? No, it's strange. We don't have one. Come back another month or so. I said, well, look, can I get on a wait list or something? Because I really want this bird, just come back. Anyway, I like 3-4 stores around here. And they all told me the same thing. None of them, they all thought they'd have one, and then they didn't have any. So then I even I skipped out of a party with our friend from another radio channel that you and I know that's a neighbor of mine. I was at his party. Anyway, I left his Memorial Day party to go to a bird convention down in Phoenix, paid money just to get in there and start asking all the dealers, does anybody know where to get a Pyonis? And everyone's kind of going, yeah, it's kind of odd. We usually can find birds, but a lot of these rare birds, I don't know why. It seems like they're hard to find now. We don't understand why. And then someone said you can't even buy one in Arizona. And then someone else said you can't even buy these birds, not just Pyonis, but other types of birds that are exotics, anywhere in the Southwest. I'm like, what the hell? And nobody really understood why. And then I finally got an answer. Because eventually I had to find a breeder in Florida, right, a freedom state of Florida, and pay a lot of money. So let me, I'm only saying this to show you about what, Ernie's going to laugh at me for spending the money, but this bird is normally about $700 for this bird. These birds now start at $4,000.
Oh my God!
And I just got a basic one that was like around $4,000, to be honest.
Well, does it talk or tie your shoes or something? I mean,
yeah, it helps look for gold. No, it's trust me, most of them are 8,000, 10,000, and they're raising the prices next year because of inflation and everything else. So these birds are going to be even more. And so you can't find them, and they're extremely expensive. I'm going to explain to you, the audience, why, what I found out. Your head will explode in just a second.
This is a luxury purchase.
It's just a second. But kind of remind me, I just watched Blade Runner with my friends the other night, and there's that famous scene where Harrison Ford shows up with Sean Young, who looks awesome in that movie, by the way. And there was that scene, that beautiful scene when she walks out all noir. And there's the owl. He goes, "Do you like our owl?" And of course he goes, "Is it real?" She goes, "Of course it's not real. No one could, even they could not afford a real owl, right? Those owls were robots because animals were so expensive in the future for all sorts of reasons." This is what it feels like. So I find out the reason, audience. So here's the deal. The deal is that the government, it comes back to the government, decides that they need more money. Nothing new. So they decide they find a new industry to go after. They go after bird breeders. Now, I don't know if this also was dog breeders and other kind of breeders. I'm sure it was just bird breeders because they're
Give us money or we'll make you kill them because of avian flu.
So they, yeah, I'm sure that's part of it. So they go to the bird breeders and they say, look, now remember, bird breeders, like a lot of breeders, sugar gliders, chinchillas, most people who breed, they're just like normies. They're people who have regular jobs. You know, they have a day job, but they just love their animal. They love them so much they get 2 and 3, and then they start having, broods. And then, of course, they keep some of the good ones, and then they want to sell the others off. And they sell a few off to help pay for their hobby. Essentially, it's a hobby. You know what I mean? That's what most breeders are doing. And they might make a couple bucks to pay off the bird seed or something, but they're not like buying Lambos over being a breeder. It's too much work and dedication. And these people have noisy houses and they smell from all the animals, and it's a passion. God bless them. But the government comes in and says, all right, we have now a rule, new rule, is that you are allowed to sell to pet stores 2 birds per year. But if you sell more than 2 birds in a year, then you are reclassified as like a section whatever, blah, 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 corporation, blah, 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 and everything that goes with it, which means your taxes go up, which means, I guess, Obamacare kicks in. So that means everyone's got to be incorporated or employed, and then you have to deal with Obamacare taxes. Probably, I don't know this for sure, but it's kind of like it was joked. It's all of a sudden, I mean, your house, your house now is your corporation, so it has to be handicapped accessible. God forbid someone decides to work for your company, so you have to put an elevator in. And then on top of that, anyway, so you've got all these, and on top of that, you now can get site inspections. At any moment, Ernie loves this one, a man with a shiny badge shows up and says, "We're here to protect the animals. You have to let us in now. We're doing a spot inspection." Right now, these are not like main businesses. This is just someone's house. So can you imagine?
Now, this is how they did it with FFLs. People that do a federal firearm license out of their home and so on, they had to sign that the BATF come in, check out whatever they want, whenever they want. Then they went after to stopping them because they were zoned not to have businesses in residential areas, even though you're just putting guns on your kitchen table. And it's government, man. It's control. It's revenue. You can't. They're not there protecting individual rights. They're taking them away and charging you for it.
Yep. And so overnight, people, to the point of the chagrin of the bird dealers that didn't even know it, every bird breeder in Arizona, and I heard most of the Southwest, including California, of course, they all went out of business. They just said, we're done. Overnight. And that's how you talk about birdflation. You go from $700 to $4,000 minimum in 1 year. Like the whole industry got wiped out. I mean, of course, that's the time I'm looking for a bird, go figure. But anyway, so I wanted to pass that on. I thought this audience, I wasn't trying to waste your time about my private bird here, but, it's just, I thought this audience would appreciate how many ways that these inflation and people just dropping out of industries. Now, just for the record, before I'm going to throw it back to you, any more comments on this one. But what's going on, though, I'm finding out, is that the breeders, they still want to breed because this is still their hobby. I mean, a lot of them have like these really exotic strains and whatever, and they really like it. So they're like, you know what? We don't even care about the money. It's about just our hobby. So they're now they're all off grid, and they're just trading amongst themselves. No money, because they don't break any rules. They're just trading amongst each other. So you have to have the secret handshake in birdland to now trade amongst themselves, but it's all gone underground. The whole bird breeder thing is going underground. It's crazy. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I mean, what do you expect? It's government. Government. This is why it's freedom's the answer. What's the question? I can't, it sounds like you need some more freedom there is what it sounds like. What is the role of government in this? They create and manufacture their own role. They just, because we can until they can't. So I'm just so I'm not. I'm to the point to where I just want to isolate myself from all this stuff. Anything that I want or need, I want to be able to manufacture. And the tooling that's coming available and how cheap it is, it's so amazing to me. A CNC machine, laser, plasma cutter, you get for under $1,000, and if you got, the plasma cutter, hell, for $150, you can buy the frame with the CNC, the software of whatever, and Bob knows how to do this stuff. I could learn CAD and spend, they're trying to, 15 minutes a day learning AI and CNC and this and that and everything, and you be the most dangerous person on the planet and be able to kick ass. And I'm going, yeah, that's cool. Right after I finish building my house. So this is why we're building the infrastructure here to be able to have cottage industries. Being able, I got batteries coming today or tomorrow that will turn, a workshop into because it's gotten so freaking cheap. For $1,200, I got 15 kilowatts of power. I go, are you freaking kidding me? And now they're having sodium mixes that you don't degrade the batteries. They go down to 0 or up to 100%. They got other issues they got to fix. It's not ready to buy them yet. But, they're already starting to commercialize and sell them. And I'm going, this is the decentralization of everything, but for whom? Those that know, those that can, those that see, those that have a little bit of resources in order to willing to live in an RV or a small house or occupy the land or what. The future is abundance. I saw this when we were down in southeast Arizona, Cochise County. They have a thing called opt-out, to where I choose to opt out. I go get a permit, not to get any more permits. They, all right, peace out, do what you want. The only thing that they care, if you do composting, they don't care. But if you're going to have a septic system, they want to go inspect that. Well, and I'm sure they want, pushpin and whoever's got a well kind of deal. But generally for housing, they're, peace, build what you want. Now, they want you every year to show that you're making progress, that you're actually doing something or whatever they got. And then, of course, there's, industries that, are lobbying, trying to stop it or what. It's a thing. Well, when you have that ability to just do it, people do. And when we were down there, we were picking up, the earth bags, hyperdobe bags, and helping with a workshop down there and so on. And one of the fenders on the trailer that I had built, the weld broke and it was coming loose and it was being a pain in the ass. And I fixed it before. We even had another welder do it. It didn't hold. I'm like, man, I want this freaking fixed. We got a place down here. Sure enough, you find on, I don't know, map, search, Google, something. There was a Quonset hut out in the middle of the field of the desert, in the middle of nothing in the farming area, that was run by, I don't even think he was even 30 years old. And he had grown from a small area to then he's got like 10, 15,000 square feet. And he just started with a lathe fixing tractors for his father's farm. And he learned how to do that, and it became, a thing. Other people needed it. All of a sudden, he's got a crap ton of mills and lathes and stamp presses and whatever to do metalwork. Well, when I called and said, look, I just got a little weld, kind of do whatever I need it done. You got somebody? Yeah, I got a guy who can work on it. That afternoon, I go, we couldn't make it till it was like dark. It was 6, 7 o'clock, and he was there. We could pick it up. We go there, and all they did was take, I don't know, some scrap plate metal that was like half-inch thick. I mean, it's industrial thick. And they put a guy on it, some young kid that, yeah, I'll make it fixed. Man, he fixed it. It was fixified. It was, man, woo, you hit that part of the trailer with a tank. And it cost like, I don't know, $80 or something like that. Probably cost them nothing to do. But they freaking fixed it. I spent quite a bit of time talking to him about how he started, what was his market, how popular it is, what kind of clients does he have? How self-sufficient are they? How much does he fill in on what they need to have done in an isolated, out in the lone prairie of like Kansas, that you have this one place and all the farmers and the people building out there need his services. Now, of course, a lot of them can do a lot of little stuff on their own, but this is what Derek Slopey did. He needed a piece for an old tractor that they didn't have, so he goes to get it custom made and asked the guy about, well, what about that mill you got sitting there? You can buy the whole damn shop for $30,000. Boom! I'm back. He comes back in a couple of hours. Boom! Bought everything, put it in his warehouse, and now he's the guy. Well, he's in Maine. He ain't here. Well, this guy's probably a couple hundred miles away. I'm not thinking about that, but what is available? Desktop manufacturing now. You can go to Harbor Freight and buy a lathe. You can go CNC order plasma laser cut of. I just ordered, just because they're so cheap, $50 for a handheld laser welder. Now that thing has been, tempting me for a year. It comes in all my feed and all right, fine. I'll buy that. I want to try it out. Well, that gun can also fit into a CNC. And I'm going, this is so encouraging to me to have abundance at our fingertips, but it takes somebody to do it. Who's going to do it? Is it going to be like in Cochise County, where you have this one young man at 13, he starts doing stuff for his father, and it turned into a business. The guy's not even 30, and he's making bank. So I'm going, this is the future. It's going to be the technology that we are able to incorporate into our lives and be able to power it without gazillion-dollar bill and being able, have to pay for $30,000 to hook it up into bring out the power line, kind of, no, I got it myself, thank you. Same thing's going to happen with food. Same thing's going to happen with mechanics. Same thing's going to happen. One of my son-in-laws, he works at, Nicola later became Lucid, so he's at Lucid now. He's doing well. But his garage is pimp. It's got a hoist in it.
I'll bet it is.
It is. I'm like, oh man, I want to break my vehicle so I can come fix it. So we have this. This is the future. But what do they then those want to do? You're not allowed to have a business out of whatever. You're not allowed to charge money. You're not allowed to create, grow, share. You're not allowed.
You're not allowed to breed birds.
It's everywhere. It's in everything.
What's interesting, though, and this is just as a side note, some of you in the audience probably caught this. So this bird, like I said, was $700 to maybe $1,400, $1,500, $600. It depends which one you got. Just a few years ago, and guess what? That was pretty much equal to an ounce of gold. And now this bird cost me an ounce of gold.
Yep,
it's incredible.
Yeah. Did you weigh the bird? See how much he's worth per ounce?
Yeah, I really should. Yeah, it was incredible. That's a whole other experience I'll talk about. So a couple other things I wanted to chat about. Not much here. Is
right, there's one big news. I got breaking news. Oh my God!
Breaking?
Did you hear? Hey, Katy Perry and Justin Trudeau are dating. Yeah, you got to pay attention to that. And then in this meme I got here, it goes, oh my God, yes, did you hear the DOJ just back warrantless invasion of gun owners' homes? Miami-Dade Phoenix Police Department just ruled out a self-driving cop car, and Ring cameras start facial recognition scanning in December. But Katy Perry and Justin Trudeau are dating. Katy Perry is, where are the horns? She sold out. Yeah. A lot of people don't realize, I think she started off as a Christian ballad singer, and then, man, she sold her soul. She went dark. Whenever you see these guys, getting all kinds of push and pay attention to, all I got to do is go look at their music videos, show me the horns. There is always somebody in their video wearing goat horns or some horn thing of horns. They said, yep, okay, might as well do the whatever hand sign signals you got, they're part of the club. Well, then when she is starting to go down in favor and breaking up with boyfriend of, it was Bloom, wasn't it? Orlando Bloom. Anyway,
why would you know that, Ernie?
Because I surfed the net all day and freaking
Turn in
everything.
your card again.
Everything I know about Katy Perry and Kim Kardashian is involuntary. I guarantee
right.
that. Okay?
You're scrolling People magazine. I know you are. Right?
No.
Hey, all right. So here's the thing I want to talk about. I want to switch gears for a minute. The getting into the kind of like the pop politics of the day. Something I predicted on this show immediately after Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And that was, I said, the Overton window is probably going to be shifting. You have this whole Israel thing that was really starting to just come out of the closet for all sorts of reasons. And you had the death of the number one political magnet for young people, for conservatives, Charlie Kirk. And I said, well, there's going to be a vacuum, I don't want to say power vacuum, let's say an influence vacuum for young people with all of these things coming together. And who did I tell you on this show? And I told this audience, just wait, because most of you had not really heard much about this person. Or
Nick Fuentes!
Nick Fuentes. And I said on the show, and Ernie goes, who? And I said, well, I know you heard the name.
Still saying who.
Exactly. So here it is. And man, he's been getting courted. He's done the rounds ever since I said that. Every show now, he's kind of worked up the ladder. Someone who's banned from YouTube is just on Rumble, but all of a sudden people are doing more and more clips of his shows and putting it on YouTube. And then he starts doing different shows. He did a sit-down interview with Candace Owens, which at the end didn't do too well. I mean, they kind of have a falling out about it. That's another story. Then he's on the PBD, the Patrick Bet-David show. And of course, all these hosts, he's
I just finished watching him
up.
interviewed by Tucker Carlson.
Well, I know. Well, I'm getting to that one. You're spoiling,
I didn't like
the news. But what I'm saying is he's working his way up from each one. And each of these hosts, is trying to play this line. Oh, and Tim Pool, who's kind of a little swarmy with some of this stuff. He's a little cagey. He even admitted that he's not a paladin type. He's not someone that's all about principle. It's about he's the rogue. He's the guy that'll find his way through the back of the castle, whatever works. Basically he'll keep his head low and he'll subvert principles if it allows him further advancement overall, compared to some people who will die on the sword of their principles regardless. And I think it was good of him to admit that, but that's certainly true. But that's he's kind of admitting why Nick Fuentes is now being invited on his show. People are saying, well, how come you didn't invite him before? And this is what a lot of these hosts like the Patrick Bet-Davis, Candace, all of them. Although Candace, she's a piece of work in her own. I have a lot of respect for her just for being such a ball buster. But it's like they're all saying, well, we're having Nick on now, but doesn't mean I agree with everything he says. But I think he deserves to have a platform and just hear what he has to say. And he's kind of in the news, and so suddenly now they're all still distancing, but they also don't want to miss out on the Nick Fuentes train, as he's now, in essence, in complete. It's like two battering rams. You have Nick Fuentes and Turning Point USA. That's being, I don't want to say co-opted yet. Some of you might think it already has been. I think I would love to be. I would love to be whatever you call it, a fly on the wall of Turning Point here in Phoenix, Arizona, and hear the discussions going on. Assuming that Erica Kirk is not some kind of plant or some espionage person, and that's another conversation. But let's just take it face value. She's a widow. She didn't expect to be in this position. Let's just make these assumptions for now. Some of you are, kind of laughing at it. But imagine you're in that spot and you're being yelled at by all sides. You have the youth and the influence and the momentum of being Tucker Carlson and kind of like questioning Israel's role in all of this, or out and out condemning Israel's role in our politics. And they want Candace Owens at the new Turning Point meeting. They want Tucker. They want other voices like that. And when they're going to colleges, the college campuses, this is what all the young people are asking. But on the other hand, the money and it's like the support structure of the establishment and the money, do I say that again? The money, I'll say it a third time, is coming from AIPAC and a lot of the pro-Israel neocons saying, hey, let's just, we have to keep out, we have to make sure the youth doesn't change against Israel, which they're right. I mean, their shift is happening right now before them. So I don't envy Erica Kirk if she is an innocent bystander in this, if she is. But it's a tough thing. So we're going to see how this plays out. So you're having these two battering rams of the Nick Fuentes arm, which you could say he's at the top with Candace and Tucker and everybody else who's shifting, saying, look, I'm all MAGA, but it's about America first, not Israel first. Period. End of story. That's all this is about. And Nick Fuentes has been ahead of this message when it was not popular. And yeah, Nick Fuentes has kind of a chip on his shoulder and probably rightfully earned. Because, he's been saying this stuff when he's been banned and kicked out and called names and everything else.
He's a kid.
Not that I agree with everything that he's saying, and I don't really listen to him much, but he has been ahead of the message, and he's sucking up all the oxygen from the Charlie Kirk world. So you have that, and then the battering ram is on the other side. Yeah. So now some people were thinking that Nick Fuentes is a plant, that he's a Fed, that he was put in there on purpose to alienate people or to pull out and expose those on the anti-Israel side. So some, including Tucker Carlson, has been saying that. Candace thought that as well. Now, this gets to the famous Tucker Carlson interview with Nick. So I'm highlighting it today because he's been doing the interview circuit, kind of going up the spiral, more and more influential. I'm not sure if he did Megyn Kelly or not. I don't know. But I'm sure he'll be Piers Morgan soon if he hasn't already. I've been busy with the birds, so I haven't watched anything. But I'm sure he's working his way up. And Tucker's Tucker's kind of like the end game in a way with it. You go, okay, you're on Tucker, you get all the exposure. So the fact that he was on the show, number one, says a lot about how he's worked his way up from being subverted down on Rumble, and now he's on the Tucker show for 2.5 hours. And then number two is the fact that the response, especially from the neocons and the general Republicans, the AIPAC people, it's all about how dare you platform him. You have the Dinesh D'Souza sitting there saying how, I forget what words he exactly used, but really condemning Tucker like he's platforming Adolf Hitler on his show, and therefore that means Tucker's contaminated. So you're seeing a civil war in the conservative side, exactly what you're seeing on the left, which is playing out in a different way. I won't go distract on that too much, but you're seeing the Mandani, the guy obviously running for the New York governor, and how he's like, no, I'm not going to Israel. And so he's representing the new young faction that is anti-Israel. At least they're saying, not anti-Jewish, to be clear. It's just that they don't want to be supporting Israel. Now, for them, on the left, they don't want to support Israel because they're pro-Palestine. Whereas the people on the right, the young people, don't want to support Israel, not because they support Palestine. It's just they don't want to support any foreign country. So you could call it different reasons, although it's slight different flavors of ice cream, I guess. But at the end of the day, from AIPAC's point of view, it's that the youth at least have one thing in common for different reasons. They don't want to be supporting the nation of Israel at this point, and they're losing that battle. So we're seeing it on both sides, both with generational, which I find fascinating. And Nick Fuentes is, because I don't know, if we take Charlie Kirk. I mean, obviously he's not here anymore. Everyone keeps trying to tie everything to Charlie Kirk, like he's Jesus now. Like, oh, Charlie Kirk said this on this date.
He was a rare
it's ridiculous
individual.
Well, he was, but Charlie Kirk, though, with him gone, and I'll throw it to you. Who do you think, if anyone, is the nearest successor to Charlie Kirk? And I would argue it's Nick Fuentes. Not that I'm a big Nick Fuentes fan necessarily, and I agree. He's young. He's got a lot of growing. His views are going to be changing around, but man, he is going to be fought over by everybody about who can control him. And the problem is, in my opinion, I don't think he can be controlled. In my opinion, I could be wrong. Maybe he's already a plant as it is. But if he is who he seems to be, and he was able to take all those arrows all that time, and if you've heard his story about how he was already thrown out to the wolves multiple times by not getting the memo loud enough that he needs to obey and comply, then he's extra dangerous, just like Candace. We'll get back to Candace later. Anyway, what's your thoughts on Nick Fuentes? And did you watch that whole interview with Tucker? What did you think?
Yes, I did. Don't like him. He's too immature. He's not seasoned enough. He's definitely not a Charlie Kirk. He's not a uniter. He's not. Nick Fuentes struck me as not necessarily an outcast, just an outlier he goes to Boston University or something, and he gets there and he's wearing a MAGA hat while everybody's yelling at him, and he had the personality to bite me and, debate him, and he debated the student body liberal president at the time. That gave him a lot of attention, and people, what he said, and it's he's got the same kind of influence and following that like Andrew Tate does. And I think Andrew Tate is a little bit more principled and articulate. Nick Fuentes, all the conversation when he talked about relationships and the roles between men and women and everything, it wasn't really a freedom thing as it was a conservative, popular, poll reading kind of thing. I don't see him as having any kind of lasting staying power other than what's forced upon him by a controlled media. And Tucker went out of his way to be supportive and kind of, what you said, and and kind of didn't challenge him on a bunch of challengeable crap. And I don't see him as well read, learned, or understanding of the issues, and certainly not biblical, as Charlie Kirk was. Charlie Kirk had a freaking answer for everything because he understood a lot of things, and he went back and focused on some basic human things and used the Bible to be able to make his point and to be an example of the power of faith. And Nick Fuentes is not even in the same freaking category. What them coming up with Nick Fuentes as kind of the stand-in for Charlie Kirk is just demonstrated how few Charlie Kirks there are, if any. Nick is not. I don't have anything special. Say your thing, whatever, don't care. I don't see any longevity in that. I see him being, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. I see them building him up to a major decapitation of something. So I was not impressed. I don't see any rationale for him being the face of young men. I don't, if you're going to do that, be more rah, 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 testosterone, home improvement, I got the bigger battery for my drill kind of guy, is more Andrew Tate. So they kind of, keep him down low. They don't want to have him coming up too much. Every time he comes out and gets a lot of attention, he gets a lot more support. Nick Fuentes is manufactured, I think, from the beginning. And who's putting them up and why, I have no idea. But there's some AI said, and push Nick Fuentes. So I think his flame is going to burn out relatively quickly. Now, what they're doing is they're trying to consolidate young men for the midterms. This is what's going on. And they see him with whatever polling data they did, whatever, they got to have some lightning rod of Nick endorsed and said this about that or something, because he's, all magged up. But I don't see him really taking on a leadership role that's going to take us anywhere near where we want to go. That's just my opinion. So Phranq thinks Nick Fuentes is an up-and-comer and he's going to be the Charlie replacement.
No, I did not
he's
say
inconsequential.
that. No, I did not say that. You're putting words in my mouth. I did not say that. I'm just saying I'm saying he's filling a vacuum right now. And number two, I don't see anyone right now who's as popular as him for the youth. I'm not saying there won't be. I'm not saying he's going to flame out. I'm not saying whether he's a plant or not, whether I personally really love the guy. I'm not saying I'm the big Uber ditto, Mega Dittos fan or something like that. However, I'm acknowledging what is happening, and I think he is an exceptionally influential person right now. I think the media is starting to realize,
Fake
especially
news.
conservative media, the conservative media, they're starting to see it because everything's about Charlie Kirk and Charlie
Fake.
Kirk. But you can only talk about Charlie Kirk for so long until you have to move on. And here's this other young
You
guy.
just got to replay his stuff.
That's number one. Now you're talking about, well, he maybe doesn't have the Christian views or he doesn't bring religion much into it. I wouldn't assume it's all from one video, but even if he doesn't bring up Christian values as much, which I think he should, I think that's where Charlie Kirk's, he had a philosophy and a foundational philosophy based in that. So, I think that's kind of where you're coming from as well. It's like your issue of
And integrity.
It's like your thing with Trump is that you have to have at least to understand where the person operates from a fundamental level. And I'm not sure that that Nick has that, or maybe he does, but it's hard to know that completely in one video. There was a lot of stuff going on in that video that Tucker had on, stuff behind the, just other stories leading up to him being on there. With that said,
I think he's being set up.
Well, yeah, he might be, but here's my point though, and my feeling is I think he's going to become much more influential. Now, whether he flames out or not, I don't know, but I think he will, and here's the reason. It's because he is rising up as Charlie Kirk. You know what it is? Charlie Kirk was Dr. Martin Luther King, and Nick Fuentes is Malcolm X. That's how I see this. And when Dr. King was assassinated, black people understandably got extra pissed. Like they did it the nice way first, and now you're leaving us with Malcolm X. So suddenly Malcolm X's warnings that Dr. King, what was his big criticism of Dr. King? Dr. King was too nice. He was too slow. He was too nice. He wasn't saying what really needed to be said. That's what Malcolm X's deal was. And heck, Malcolm X is the one saying the people you don't, he goes, if I have to pick Republicans and Democrats, I'll go with Republicans all the time. Because Republicans, at least they'll say it to your face if they don't like you. Democrats will lie to you and use you. That was his thing. He just
let me give you a comparison.
I want to finish this point. So when we have the economy about to fall apart, which it's going to, and the youth cannot afford a house, and they're bankrupt, and you've got senior citizens and the baby boomers still bitching, I deserve my Social Security and my Medicare because I paid into a system. No, you paid into a system that was already broken, and you had 50 years to vote and figure it out as a population, and you didn't, and now that generation is sitting back wanting all their gimmies and sticking the bill to their kids and grandkids while they give them a birthday present saying, I still love my kids. Well, you know what? Stop bitching if you don't get your Medicare. So there's a lot of hatred that is brewing that I don't think baby boomers see of the young generation against the baby boomers. They really is, and maybe even my generation in a way. So you're having this cultural generational divide of anger, and we have a country now that's sitting there literally on the precipice of choosing communism versus capitalism. There was that famous poll that went around last week where even Dr. Turley, which I don't even watch him much anymore, but he was covering it, like I think CNN did it, and they said, Dr. Turley made this big, amazing video. Yes, the Democrats are done. Look at this new poll. And don't quote me on the exact numbers, guys, but it was something like 58% of Americans prefer capitalism, and only 42% or whatever the difference was wants socialism. Or communism. I forget which one they said. It was communism or socialism. And he's talking about, yes, look how dominant our views are. And I'm looking at this going, wait a minute, 40+% of Americans are like, what, communism? Hey, Turley, you're missing the big bold face here. 20 years ago it would have been like 5%. Just the fact that we're in the 40s, that says a lot. And that's with an all-time stock market. That's with everyone making money, supposedly, right? So what happens when the AI crashes and the stocks crash and the Bitcoin crash and just everything crashes and prices go up and the generation already that's angry and has nothing, has nowhere to turn to. And then you've got Nick Fuentes. Just saying. So that's why I think that he has staying power because of what is coming. Doesn't mean whether I agree or not. I always have to point out to you and the show that, what I think is happening is different than what my personal views might be. But I think the setup is staying power, unless some other reason he flames out, and you can read between the lines there. Go ahead. Go.
What I see is the same thing during the 2016 election cycle when the Democrats and Hillary were funding and supporting and doing advertising to make sure that Trump got the Republican nomination because they thought that they could beat him more easily. I see the same thing with this Nick Fuentes thing. For the same reasons, this outlying kind of, abrasive, not really experienced politically, can't, whatever, that Nick Fuentes can be an easy target. And they're going to pump him up like you wouldn't believe, and it's going to be, he's the guy, and all of a sudden oh my God, Nick Fuentes did this and that, he said, and kind of whatever, and I can't believe you're supporting MAGA because of whatever. Now, will that backfire? And they get a lot of young men, yeah, screw you, and, we MAGA, and, whatever. But I think it's the same mentality. They're thinking that Nick Fuentes and his advocacies and his style and so on is so offensive to their base on the left that they need him to be there. Well, the polling data as they manipulate whatever in the media coverage and kind of they're going, hey man, he's up and comer, and he kind of they tuned out on Turning Point USA and went over Nick. We're gonna market that into some votes. It's all politics. It's not principle, and it doesn't last. It never does. So I see it exactly like that. Now, are they going to be correct? Are they going to be, oh man, we created another monster? But I think this MAGA thing, or certainly Trump, is losing its flavor. He's got his own agenda. Make America great again means something else to him than it does to me.
Yep.
And Nick is online with that, and he's going to, keep doing what he's doing. And all I sense from my decades of experience in activism and how it, what has longevity, what's popular, what it, makes it to, general public opinion, not necessarily the ballot box because I don't trust it, but he doesn't have that depth. Certainly not what Charlie Kirk did. He doesn't have the experience. He's semi-socially awkward, which is what made him where he is and what he's got now. I think he's just as surprised as anybody else. And his only real claim to fame was him, head up against the liberal, woke, progressive crowd in college, and that kind of gave him a launch. And Charlie's gone, and immediately I kept hearing Nick Fuentes from you, everybody. I'm going, well, hell, it must be from CNN and NBC influencing Phranq.
Of course. Of course. My favorite show, Ernie.
I'm like, what the crap? So, this is my prediction. I predict Nick Fuentes is a flash in the pan that's not really going to have any real influence other than what the left says he does and the right tries to take advantage of. Nick is a pawn in this whole thing, and I don't think it's going to end well for him, and depends how he takes advantage of these opportunities and gets more read and learned and what. But he's just so conservative, so Republic, so MAGA, so in his box that he's missing the larger picture. Is he going to be against invasion of Venezuela? Is he against, $40 billion to Argentina? Is he against some war, the next whatever? No. He's going to be whatever the hell he's going to be, and both sides are going to take advantage, and he's going to be, throwing away used toilet paper. I mean, that's my opinion. So, and the reasoning I give that is because he has no world experience. He doesn't have a lot of depth. He found his niche, and they're taking advantage of it. They, them, those. And he's in the middle of it, and I don't think he sees it. And I'm not sure anybody else sees it. I was disappointed that Tucker didn't, drill on him a little bit more. He's just trying to, I have no idea. He'd be nice to everybody. I watched the Cheryl Hines interview of Robert Kennedy Jr.'s wife, the actress in Hollywood, and that was interesting, but there was no meat there on how Hollywood, she's trying to keep her day job and still get hired as an actress later on or something. So you didn't really learn anything from that other than her awakening as going through all this stuff with her husband going, damn, this is like a thing. And the people in Washington suck, So we are being manipulated more and more. And it's all coming down to Trump doing everything he can with pressure on the Fed, the interest rates, they have to keep the stock market up. And I'm glad, personally, you keep it up as long as you can until I can get all my crap and Donna's crap, everything out of the dollar, out of the stock market, out and into either, liquefying, paying off all debt, getting the equipment that we need to sustain, get along with the building, and caught up on whatever the hell, and whatever's left over, silver. That's it. So Donna, every day I'm going, all right, where is it? Get it out. Well, come to find out, her Republican supporting yeehaw family, or government supporting one's probably more left and the other one's right. But her family love each other. They're all good people, and our kids go visit them all the time and everything. We're a tight family. But I think they're both starting to realize, get out of the dollar. These are not stupid people. And the only person that listened to me in the beginning, that maintained a level of resources, so was Donna's grandmother, her maternal grandmother, because she had been around this stuff before. She's 100 years old. She goes, yep, I think you're right. And she, maintained because of that. And that was, God, since the Levolution. This has been 10, 15 years. I've been screaming this to family. Well, now it's like, yeah, well, of course you were right eventually. I'm like, whoa, you guys are killing me. So this is just an observation on my part. There isn't, and there shouldn't be, a replacement for Charlie Kirk. I don't see Turning Point USA having the longevity, certainly not what would have been with Charlie Kirk. You had the Republican administration cabinet sitting in the front row here in Arizona at the memorial. You had to link in with, the Trump administration, and by extension, even though Charlie was not supporting it, Israel. You have all that are just abusing that brand all to hell. I don't think there should be a replacement for Charlie Kirk. I think it's that generation that he influenced, and it will come spontaneously as a philosophy, as a group, as people going back to church, getting in touch with their spiritual leader, and in their own mind, critically thinking, looking at the issues as Charlie had explained it to them, a lot of biblical stuff. They're having an influence as a block of individuals and not a collective like the progressives, the left, or the Democratic Congress. This is all collective identity politics stuff versus individual liberty, self-responsibility that was advocated by Charlie Kirk, and more traditional rules of start making babies. So Nick, does he represent? Not even close.
I disagree.
So whatever segment, okay, what do we got to wait for? What's the time frame?
Probably, you know what? For him, not that I'm sitting there banking on to root for the guy, but I think there might be a time when he finds God. I'm not sure if he has it yet or not, but at least when he really wears that on his sleeve, hopefully, meaningfully, that might be where he gets
going to change a lot of his base principles.
Yeah, I think. Well, I don't know about that. I think he'll be supercharged. I think. Ernie, seriously, I think this fourth turning, when it occurs, you get the alpha generation, the new generation. And they are raised during a time of turmoil and war, not the comfy generation of the milquetoast, men today. And I'm not
Hard
blaming them.
times, hard men.
The society's done it to them, but they don't want to drive. They don't want to. The dating system is completely messed up. They're sitting playing video games, the whole bit. Heck, you see a movie today, and men don't act like men. I mean, they act like women. In dating movies, like you don't have a man, anymore like they used to. So I think that those.
Right. Yeah, they do. They just make him the bad guy.
That's true. That's true. Heck, I even heard big news, Ernie. I heard news. George Clooney is retiring from acting. So I don't want you too sad, but he was probably one of the last leading men of, not that I care about George Clooney, but that he had that bravado of the old leading man, the charm, the look, the bravado, the masculinity. God, I can't believe I'm trying to talk up George Clooney, but you get my point. I mean, that world is gone. I mean, I just saw a movie last night. It was some new horror movie, and they had Jesse Eichenberg, this young millennial actor, and he was acting as if he was supposed to be married, and he was acting as if he was a woman in this thing. And it was like a serious movie. I couldn't believe it. But you can see the culture change. Like, there's the C word again. So when you have this revolution, when you go through this, you come out of it different. And I'm going to say one thing, good about the Israelis or the Jewish population. I mean, I love the Jews and overall, but just imagine too some of the hard line approaches. Maybe obviously why Israel is so strong to make sure their influence was in America to, as they often say, never again. And if you lived through the Holocaust, and you have many people who are the children who escaped, you hear stories of people had escaped through the latrines, through fecal matter and all kinds of things, and you see that kind of death. It changes you. I mean, I don't understand George Soros. That's a whole nother story how he came out of it. But it changes you. And I think I can imagine the children of the revolution of America, how much it changed them and how much they fought for freedom because they saw how hard it was to fight for it and how kick-ass they were. This is why Ernie Hancock, needs to find a DeLorean and go back then, because that's. And I'll probably come with you, too. But it's that mentality that's been lost. That's why you and I argue all the time about culture. And you're like, well, it's right there, just freedom. And I'm like, yeah, but when it's lost in the culture and people don't even know it anymore, it doesn't matter what you think if the culture is changed. And I don't, again, arguing about it. I agree on principle with you. It's just what's reality. So the question's going to be, is that will this new generation, when they hit the hard times, and I'm preparing my daughter for it because she's part of Generation Alpha. She's going to be the generation that's going to remember vaguely what life was like when she was a child, but then she's going to remember, it's like pre and post COVID for us. It's going to be pre and post the reset, and the world's going to be different. And her generation, especially the men too and the women, are going to have to toughen up. And I think there's going to be a lot of anger along the way. I think there's going to be anger. They're not going to look back at the past and say, wow, it was amazing, nostalgia, how great it was. They're going to look back, they're going to see how good it was, and then how their grandparents screwed it all up. I'm not trying to blame it all on the boomers, but it's been a long time, this is going on. But I think they're going to have to pick up all the pieces and all the debt and all the fighting and the Civil War, hopefully not, whatever goes on, and they're going to be changed. And so this is why people like Nick Fuentes is someone I'm really watching. It's not that I'm sitting there rooting for the guy one way or the other, but I do follow culture. And it's a big thing with me, sociology, anthropology. That's been my love since college, and I kind of bring it on the show once in a while as long as it doesn't affect Ernie's blood pressure too much, or mine, because then mine goes up. But it is part of this. And so just keep in mind, the new generation, I'll throw it back to you here, is going to be different than our generation in many ways. And some of it I can see, some of it I can't see. And then you throw in AI on top of it. And then, how many is this generation? They're all college debts. Their parents, who still haven't figured it out, are still encouraging their kids to go to college, to still go to college. And then by the time they graduate, they already can't get a job. They're already, AI. You've got Dan Powell lowering interest rates because he sees the job apocalypse coming. So you're going to have tons of debt. The economy falls apart. You can't afford anything. Your parents and all the elders are so really smart, told you to get a college degree that's worthless, and damn AI is taking your job. I think there's going to be a reckoning, and where the young generation, and maybe when they get older in their 20s or whatever, and I'll leave on this, is that I think they're about to go rogue. I don't mean they're going to revolt and start massacring their elders or something. I just mean I think they're going to get to a point where we don't give an F what you people think anymore. The Nancy Pelosi's, the Donald Trumps, everybody, this old generation that refuses to leave. They will not let the young generation in. And the young generation has been suffering for all different reasons. And when that older generation either dies out, which they pretty much are now, or just becomes impotent, like Joe Biden on a Tuesday, and the rest of it, when all that whole generation goes, or becomes, just incapable. And my generation is this strange generation where they're not really activists. They've kind of read on the coattails of the baby boomers and just kind of, enjoyed the 80s and all, and Spielberg movies, and, definitely my generation. And most of them don't take what you and I or this audience takes seriously. So I think this young generation is going to have a reckoning. They're going to do what the hell they want to do. And so people like Nick Fuentes are going to be influential leaders more than I think you're aware of, in my opinion. And that's going outside of any other outside forces. With that said, Ernie, I forgot to tell you, I do have to leave early today. So I'm going to turn it to you. I do want to hear your response, but I'm going to say goodbye to the audience right now. You go and finish the show, and please go over the news reviews on Freedom's Phoenix. I definitely would like to hear it too. But it was nice chatting with you, but I'd like to hear your comments, and I'll talk to you next time, Ernie. Okay? Go ahead.
All right. Nick Fuentes, flash in the pan, going to go away, not the replacement for Charlie Kirk. And I think they're just using him as a placeholder for whatever the hell else is coming. And because I don't see him as mature enough, as learned enough, or as sociable enough to be able to be any kind of a replacement for the young people that were following Charlie Kirk. I don't see that. The fact that they would highlight him and make such a big deal out of it seems like it's an effort and a manipulation from the left. And if they see the polling of we get the young, because that's what they want. They want to make sure they get the young men getting out and voting and doing and whatever in the generation of, because who is supporting the left? Well, it used to be the young, now it's not. Not in the numbers that they needed. And then they lost the minorities. The boomers are the only one. You have the No Kings rally, and it might as well be a Sun City convention. So I don't see Nick as I gave him a shot. I went and looked at some of his stuff, watched. I'm going, this guy's shallow as hell. There's no there. I could have him on and ask him 3 questions and expose him, because you're going, okay, why this? Why? Why? I think he might be able to go 2 or 3 deep, but when it comes down to a fundamental, whatever his goal is, I don't see it. So that's my opinion, and we're going to find out, because when is it going to manifest itself? It's going to manifest itself all the way up to the, within a week after the midterm election, which is going to happen in a year? A year from now, it'll come, but I think it's going to bust way before then. This is going to be interesting. All right, we'll go ahead and go with the just wait and see on that. Mark on your calendar. It's what is it? The second Tuesday in November, I guess, is most of the elections. Now, all these state ones, a lot of them are different, so I'm not even sure when that is. But let's go down to the calendar here. Let's see. If we did 2026. So it's a second week in November, so oh man, I'm pushing buttons here. I lost it. Well, what we're going to go ahead and do is look in mid-November of 26 and just take a looky-see on what's up. And if you guys remember, and you put on just a reminder in your email, on your calendar. Well, who was right, Ernie or Phranq? You'll probably be able to claim victory from both, but
Me?
what you look at. Yeah, well, it depends what you look at. But I think I think people are going to see what I'm talking about. It's just my opinion. All right, well, thanks for coming on. I'm glad you got your bird. You're all pirated up now, so go be a pirate.
So I can join you now on the airship. There we go.
Or I'm for not getting anything I got to keep in a cage other than chickens. I get a dog, cat. That's outside. You survive the coyotes and the mountain lions. Do your best to see how it works out. A dog, you don't want to get one so small he gets carried off by a hawk. But I need a medium stuff. We're gonna get animaled out here directly, unless it's it might wind up being a cow or some goats. But that's common. I mean, these decisions that we were hoping to put off till later are not being able to be put off anymore. So I'm just saying. All right, let's go ahead and go over the news real quick. Your Windows 11 computer's hidden spy, the dark truth about TPM chips. Now, this was something that I think the program module, trusted program module, I think that's what that means, because we went over this years ago. What happened was they wanted to have to where you could add any app or program to your computer, and that there was a secret chip that Bill Gates and Hewlett Packard and Intel and all they, them, those in tech agreed to, that we would have protocol for the trusted program module. And that was where they were controlling you. And you were able to get motherboards that didn't include that for a while. And that was, some of the Linux computers that I had were ones with motherboards that bypassed that. Well, now you can't get them. They bought up all of that manufacturing and turned them into, you're getting your trusted program module, just saying. Well, a lot of people didn't know that existed. This has been, since, 2000 or something. This is why Hewlett Packard, Horseface, Trump calling her, what was her name? Whatever. She was CEO of Hewlett Packard and ran for president in the Republican primary in 2016. And when 9/11 happened, she was diverting a bunch of shipments of computers to the NSA and CIA and all that. She definitely walked the halls of. So she was in there. She's gonna be one. She's gonna get some. And Trump wound up beating everybody. They didn't like that none too much. So here is Rob Braxman talking about this. Now, he's a big, Chinese-American guy that's all about privacy and getting your Brax phone to be able to be off the grid if the man doesn't, and they're doing it anyway. So he's been warning Windows 11 is just, you can't get off of this Copilot thing. Their AI is just watching everything. Well, he's going to be on the show tomorrow. So Rob Braxton, I will get to ask him every little thing. So we're going to talk about that. Now, Phranq and I did talk a little bit about the Prime Act, and this is, Joe Salatin discussing with Kentucky Congressman Massey about this that he's advocating. And I don't really know much about it other than to put it up there, and it's going to be part of my listening while I'm out on the tractor today. And but I know what I know what it's really about. It's food freedom. It's from those that manufacture to those that want. There was a thing called Farm Match, farmmatch.com, I think. You put in Farm Match and you'll find it. And what it was people that were trying to cure themselves of all kinds of different diseases and cancers and so on. They needed fresh, non-GMO, organic, raw vegetables, and you couldn't find it. Now they got the organic, pinky swear, section of Walmart, even grocery superstores or whatever. But for this young man, he had what do they call it? Crohn's disease. It's an intestinal thing, and he lost his teenage years. Well, he finally just like, man, I got to fix. I'm sick. Doc, everybody, shut up. You're not fixing me. I'm going to fix myself. So he did. He did some online study like he had anything else to do. He was stuck at home all the time. So he went and found where all of these local farmers were, and he created a thing called Farm Match, to where they would list what they had, all the different vegetables, when they'd be ready and all that, and people would go on and shop. Say, I need to go to 1, 2, 3 farms, or one farm, or whatever. There's a farm match for those that wanted and those that had. Well, how much did the man getting involved in that one? So this is like a private thing, and we pimped that all to hell, had him on, several times over the years. But he became successful by doing that. What if you do it on a large scale? What if it's part of supported infrastructure here in America? Anybody that can make their stuff available, not just online for you to come there and get it, but for you to order it, buy it, sell it. Like, is there a standard that we promote on the site? It's free markets. If freedom's the answer, what's the question? Well, who's advocating for that? Thomas Massey? Therefore, Trump must be against him? Oh, it's not going to go well. Not going to go well. All right. Where the world eats the most and least meat. The United States, Argentina, and Australia are at the top of the global meat-eating league of we want some meat. Well, does that make us healthier, better, not? What? A lot of people, they really advocate for plant-based, get off the meat and dairy, and you'll feel better and cure a lot of time. Sure, that's true for a lot of people. I've seen, it was an acid reflux thing. It was from drinking milk, but it wasn't raw milk. It was, a lot of my friends are going, man, you drink a lot of milk. Well, I always get at least whole milk, certainly organic milk. And oftentimes when we have access to it, we're paying up to, $10, $13 a gallon for raw milk. And I don't have these problems, any kind of acid reflux or something like that, my biggest medicine is baking soda. A tablespoon, glass of water, boom, get a couple of good burps out, boom, I feel much better now. But you don't for like 5 minutes. While it's doing its thing, kind of uncomfortable, and then burp, and oh yeah, I feel so much better now. Well, there's so many of these little hacks. One of the big things, colloidal silver, man, cures about everything. Certainly any kind of infection, any skin abrasion, any earache, I had something in my eye yesterday. I mean, it was grinding on something. I was like, yesterday morning, the grandkids, they're, jumping all over you and whatever, something got in my eye. And it was a thing. So then it started to even, kind of crust up. There's spray colloidal silver on it, boom, done. So, a little bit of zinc, chew on a tablet, maybe 10% of it, coat your throat at night. You wake up, that sore throat that was coming, gone. It's a bunch of little stuff like that I don't even pay attention to anymore. I'll tell you the one thing, that as you're doing stuff out here, building and working and whatever, you're constantly scraping. Donna and I got little scrapes all over and bruises on our legs and arms and fingers and whatever. I don't even remember what they were from. But whenever I get even the littlest puncture, I have colloidal silver all over the place, and I do immediately wash it, put that on. And sometimes I put a bandage or Band-Aid on or whatever. Immediately. First aid. Because that stinging feeling that you get, that redness that's infection. But if you hit it with the silver right away, it doesn't even start. It just go, and even if it does start, I go in the glove. I don't really pay attention to it or whatever. By the end of the day, it's starting to get red, big. Damn it, got to put silver on it. So that makes a big. Now, as a kid, you had insect bites, and I lived in Florida. It was mercurochrome. We walk around with little red dots all over us all the time. My grandma, man, she's mercurochrome, and that is, I don't know, is it iodine or something, and it stain you, but, I don't need a bandage. I got a red bandage, mercurochrome. So these are the things that, just a lifetime of I know better, things that are coming, and any of that, that's healthcare. You're not allowed to do that. You got a permit. You can't buy that anymore. Ivermectin at the feed store. Yeah, not anymore. I don't know. I think here in Arizona you might be able to. Tucker interviewed Colonel McGregor. Now, I had Scott Ritter on a couple of weeks ago. That was interesting. I think we might make an effort to get McGregor on. I think he'd come on, and we'll talk about it. But they were talking about what's going on in Venezuela. That Lindsey Graham and friends, they need a war. Got to be all, got to have a war because we're war people. Go kick the crap out of Venezuela, so we're good guys. War. Man, it just never stops. It's just amazing. There's this guy named Andre Jink something. Anyway, he's a Caucasian guy, but he's got a weird name. But he's an economist, does a really good job. I'm starting to see him on a lot of other shows because he does such a good job of analysis of economics and different policy. I really like what he had to say. At least, the information he got. I didn't like what he had to say, but the information that he had on our competition with China. And that's one thing McGregor was going on about. We're not going to war with China. We're not going to war. This is all just theater. Theater, and what's really going to happen? I have no idea. It's gotten to the point to where, and I don't care. It's nothing that we're going to do other than advocate individual solutions. That's where I see it's going. And that's one reason I don't think Nick Fuentes is part of that. He's not a solution. He's a mirror. It's just a bias confirmation for a lot of people. It's not a critical thinking, delving more in like Charlie Kirk was. I wouldn't say a big fanboy of Charlie Kirk. I was very appreciative that he was there. And later when he was, after he was killed, it was amazing how much influence he had on my kids' generation. Like, my children and their spouses, they were all Charlie Kirked up. I mean, daily. It penetrated their generation, and the replacement for that, I don't see one. Now, somebody's going to try and manufacture one, but that's just manufactured. I don't see it. Just saying. Senate GOP and Democrats working on shutdown off-ramp for next week. Do I need to read it? Do I care? Oh, this is what we were talking about during the show. Some Democratic senators are privately speculating that if their party does well in the gubernatorial elections in New Jersey and Virginia, scheduled for Tuesday, they can declare political victory and begin to finalize the end game for reopening the government. Well, first it was, make Republicans look bad. Then it was, the no kings protest, and then it's EBT going out, and they're not going to have money for food, and then maybe it's the election on Tuesday. They're looking for a win, some kind of win, something they can call something, and it's so even if they win what, whatever. So Trump says SNAP benefits will be solved for next month. We're going to get it done, Trump told reporters on Air Force One on October 29th. The Democrats have caused the problem, unfortunately. All they have to do is sign. And if they sign, I'll meet with them. Sign what? Continuation of another, what? Through the election? 9 months, a year, 3 months. It's just a continuing of we increase the ceiling or have a budget or we're still in debt. It's just, and it's your money. And they just want to drag this out. Big, beautiful bill, Genius Act. All this is just setting the stage for the reset of whatever the hell is coming. And what anticipates that? Gold prices. Yep. Hurricane Melissa intensified Wednesday night. Yeah, beat the crap out of Jamaica. But you don't got to worry. The Clinton Foundation will be there with some money that they get to make off you. We don't emphasize a lot of these things that have happened enough. Where's the jail time for these people? I mean, I don't care. They're whatever. Used car sales. These people that are doing these subprime loans and car sales. I mean, they're giving a loan to every illegal alien who wants to have a car, kind of, sign here. We've seen this before. This is during the subprime for housing, the ninja loans, no income, no job, and you get approved. But same thing with cars. Used cars are starting to plummet because we're in the market for preferably Donald wants to get a 3/4 ton diesel. We had one, but it air cleaner was not made for the desert, and it messed it up, and it was old. We got it pretty cheap, and we just we're going to get something that's going to last, and we need to not have to worry about, oh my God, maybe even a warranty. Not buying new, but we're looking at them, and they've dropped quite a bit just from every time we look, 3-6 months later, whatever, the mileage on the engine goes down, the price, is down, the features are up, people are getting rid of their super pimped out, spent $25,000, extra on this thing, and they're selling it for 19 kind of thing. I mean, it is, it's like there's a lot to choose from now. So I'm thinking, man, I should just go to auction and see. So we're working on that, going through that. We're busy, but I can see used cars starting to go. And I remember when this happened last time. It was one of my sons invested in a wrecker service because he could see the repossession of cars was shooting up. So he invested in that. Okay. You look at this stuff and you see where you might invest. Well, I'm investing in a cheaper truck, I can tell you that. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. COMEX collapsed. 29 million silver ounces vanished in 30 days. The physical silver market just flashed a red alert. As silver expert David Morgan revealed, a desperate shortage in London triggered a staggering 29 million ounce drain from COMEX vaults in a single month from the U.S. Why? 29 million silver ounces. 29 million ounces. That's like a lot. In my opinion, and it's because people need the actual metal. Here we go. Here's a freaking future abundance kind of thing. A man once paralyzed from the waist down now stands on his own, not with machines or wires. This is something, even as a kid in biology in high school in the late 70s, I'm going, well, if it's a break in the signals in the spinal column, well, do jumper cables. Put some carbon. Yeah, okay. Nanotubes later when that starts to come out, and graphene, all you got to do is make a connection. You ain't doing that? Well, that's what they kind of do. They put, in some material, organics or cells, and then bombard them with a bunch of stem cells that are, kind of predisposed to doing spinal column stuff, kind of inject and do, and little light, boom, connection's done, you can walk again. It's just electrical connections. We are electrical beings. It's one thing, I was reading a thing, and it was talking about saline, salt water, and a lot of times you're starting to see, for better health, put this salt, this Himalayan salt before you go to bed, and drink salt and salt and salt. I thought salt was supposed to kill you. I've been living long enough. Salt's good for you, it's not. It's good for you, it's not. It's good for you, it's not. Well, think about this. We are electrical. What makes us electrical, conductive? Saline, salt in our bodies. If you don't have enough sodium, if you don't have the ion, you ain't electrical no more. So you want to feel better? Make sure you got enough salt. Just saying. Opting out of the conspiracy. Why waking up isn't enough. This is James Corbett. Corbett was on with John Bush. I was on with John Bush just a week or two ago. Corbett goes on because Bush is starting, we're good friends for a long time, and he's starting to see, we need to get on it. Now, he's been doing the exit and build stuff and everything, but, he's been trying to build intentional community a little bit, emphasizing that more than just doing it, So we'll see how that's going, and he and James had a similar conversation, what's the solutions? Because it's a common. Well, it's self-sufficiency. And what gets in the way of that? This story. How John Deere robs farmers of $4 billion a year. Blah, blah, blah. It comes down to right to repair. Now, I just went through this with my Kubota tractor. They got to put it on the machine to read some code. They didn't have the cable that interfaced with their diagnostics machine, even as a Kubota warranty dealer. So I had to wait a week for that. They get the new cable, Plug it in. Yep, it says got to replace this, and this. And that wasn't it. It's like $6,500 warranty work. They made bank. Kubota gets nailed. And it was a clogged fuel line. So I'm just going, and then they didn't really clean it. Then I've gone, so they owe me on this one. You know, I'm going to put that over here and go, guess what? You know, you're my new best friend next time I'm just saying. I'm not going to be, you know, super dick about it and post on there. I'll talk about it here, though. But I'm not going to be a real super butthead about it, but damn, you guys, really? It's all this right to repair stuff. If I have like a leak on my backhoe, it's under warranty. I go, I can take this panel, I can tighten that fitting, but I touch it, and you guys void it. No, as long as you told me you could do that. You know, we'll let you do that because we don't want to drive out there to do it because, you know, we're not going to make you bring it back in another trip. So John Deere, what do? You're not allowed to fix it. You're not allowed to have even the device. You have to pay thousands of dollars a month as a mechanic to license the use of their software for the machine to even diagnose and fix the problems on a John Deere. Thousands. BMW, thousands a month. All these guys, that's why you're seeing in a lot of states, I think it's Massachusetts or Maryland, came up with right to repair laws. They wanted on a federal level of this planned obsolescence, planned we're going to make money off you, planned you got to use our mechanic and our diagnostics and it's planned to go bad, so you plan to give us, you know, some of the planned on money that you got that's ours now. That's what's going on. So there's another battle. It's all about self-sufficiency. So what do people want? I'm looking at, you know, I see out here these old 70s, 80s pickup trucks that you can climb into the engine bay and fix on just about anything. It's like, you know, carburetor, V8 alternator battery. I mean, you know, starter. I mean, that's it. I mean, I worked on my car. I had a 65 Chevelle Super Sport. I was always working on my car, but you could just crawl in there and do it and fix anything and it'd still be running. So this is kind of appealing to me. That's why Jay is big on diesels. You get a pre-03 Cummins, whatever, which we had, you know, the air cleaner was not the right one for the desert, so we got screwed on that one. But this is why he's big on diesel. You get rid of all that computer crap, it'll always run. So that's kind of what we're looking at. You know, we got to think into the future, man. Think into the future. Civil War, in 2 days food stamps run out and America is in trouble. This video from Redacted. This is an emergency moment in the United States. We're about to face a food stamp civil war in this country when Democrats in the deep state intentionally cut off food stamps and the EBT program for low-income Americans. They do so intentionally. Well, what would be the ramifications of that? I don't know. But way too many able-bodied, capable people, and the ones that shouldn't even be getting it, illegal aliens, whatever, you know, are going to have to something. What? Who's going to be without? How is it? You know, it's amazing how much energy they got to go out and protest. You know, and then we're starting to find out that's all manufactured, professional, paid protesters, which we knew from back in Occupy. Occupy, we've covered that, done live coverage, doing the show, had guys there going through, we've been there, done that, know a lot of the people, talking to the people, what the head people in that. I seen this when it was Camp Casey in front of Baby Bush's ranch in Crawford, Texas. The initial people that come and set up, they're paid progressive activists. They're paid. It's all this Soros money and so on. USAID, all that's going to be exposed. I don't know how much they can, you know, go on vapors or how much money they think they got left to do. We'll see. But it is all manufactured. So is Trump going to take away that motivation? Say, we're going to give out food. You know, we're going to charge your credit card one more time. Okay, technocracy's coming. The war on narco-terrorism is the new war on terrorism. You know, it's narco-terrorism, terrorism, it's all the same thing. And that's going to end just as badly. This is from Ron Paul Liberty Report. You know, so then you have, we handed this to Pam Bondi on a silver platter. James Comer demands Bondi to nullify Biden's auto pen pardons and executive orders after GOP oversight did all of the heavy lifting. Finally go, this is not, Fauci's up for incarceration. Ooh. When they start, they're already starting to get some people. I'm wondering how much they turn. We'll see. And do I care? Really? Jim Jordan just dropped a hydrogen bomb on the deep state. J6 probe became a political dragnet aimed at Republicans. Shocking, you don't say. Whatever. Now, this is one that's going to come home to roost. California's retirement fund. Retirement fund to what? Municipal employees, teachers' unions, and so on. They lost 71% of $468 million investment in clean energy. And it's gone. It was there, man. It's gone. It's gone now. Thanks for playing. Okay. All right. The vampire state feeding on our fear, freedom, and finances. The Rutherford Institute, John Whitehead wrote this article, put it, that's an interesting read. Then we got, technical stuff on 3D solar towers that boost electricity. We have, different wireless charging for electric vehicles on roads that they want to spend $1 gazillion putting infrastructure to make your road charge your car kind of deal, like it was a streetcar or something. Then we have, what's going on in England. This was interesting. Let's go ahead and put this up. I want to talk about this. In the United Kingdom, there has been an abandonment of this, 15-minute city thing. Because why? All right? Because Big Brother has their 15-minute cities are being enforced by a gazillion cameras everywhere, and people are destroyed after almost all the cameras are destroyed and 50,000 people refuse to pay the fines. So what happens? I guess this one's not working. We can't get the people to do it no matter how, but this is what it takes, non-compliance. Nah, I'm good. Not doing it. Now, Maduro, they're getting with Venezuela. One of the things that was uncovered that they had, I guess, Pentagon or CIA plot, same thing. They were trying to get Maduro's pilot to just, they're up in the air, da-da-da-da-da-da, and all of a sudden he lands at a U.S. jurisdiction to where they can arrest him. So they were trying to pay him, and that came out. He didn't do it. But, it's just all threats. Made you look. Now, University of Colorado, Turning Point USA student leader attacked after Antifa posted a hit list. Now, this is going in with the ICE raids and maps for that, and they're, putting them in danger. And then Kristi Noem from Homeland Security, Pam Bob, we're going to arrest people that do, and ouch, quit it. This is just a side effect of all the crap that's coming. In England, they're afraid to leave their homes. They have all kinds of crime that's not being addressed. The Irish people are in a tizzy. We're going to be having some people from Ireland on next week talking about this. Letters confirm Liz Cheney secretly worked hand in hand with Jack Smith. Yay. Shocking. This is, something that I didn't know. So don't worry, baby, it was spam. Yeah, I got on I ordered something from somewhere or something, man. I'm getting a lot more spam calls, but, Next. George Soros, $37 million link to New York City mayoral wannabe Zoran Mamdani. As Democrat bigwig, so linking millions of dollars back to Soros. Shocking, I tell you, shocking. Yeah, whatever. There's more stories, more bombing, more drug boats and more, and Clinton judge blocks King Trump's ability to fire federal workers during shutdown. I thought they couldn't stop him anymore. Now they're stopping him. Ouch, quit it, ouch, quit it, ouch, quit it, ouch, quit it. Hopefully, you guys understand at least my opinion. I've been doing other shows of late, with other podcasters, influencers, and so on, and certainly I'll be speaking in Mexico in Puerto Vallarta in February. I'll be doing a lot of the work here, and then of course our videos and such I go do now, and for them to have it up ready for tomorrow. But I'm telling you, you're going to have to save yourself. When this goes, there's not going to be help. There may not even be food. I don't know how often and how loud I got to say it. All I can do is kind of, hopefully inspire people to start doing it. Because during World War II, they had what they called Liberty Gardens. Liberty Gardens were, just food. And I remember there was scrap metal. It was a big thing that we would see in movies, as a kid in the 60s and 70s that would go back, World War II movies and so on, talking about at home. You had kids out in their wagons going and just getting scrap metal, steel, aluminum, whatever, and they would just take it to the recycle. People make B-19s out of it because, that's what they needed to do. Liberty Garden. Let me see if I can pull something up here. This was, a main thing. Main thing, Liberty Garden, World War II, it's got a whole bunch of stuff here. We'll do it another time. But that is something, if you did just a little bit, because a little bit of nutrition can go a long ways. That was one thing, when Donna was looking for started plants, because she didn't want to wait for seeds, it's too late in the season. She was started plants, she had to try, I go, why you got to go way up there? She goes, because heirloom. I need to make it where I can start producing our own seeds. So, okay. So she's going to get into that. There's a thing in Tucson, it's called a seed bank. And you go in and you check out seeds, use them, grow, make more, return the seeds that you, amount that you had, plus more. Over the years, we've done shows with these guys. They got seed bank like all kinds of stuff, but it is native to Arizona. What they did is they go, well, the Native Americans, the Mexicans, they grew maize, they grew this, they grew that, they grew that was made for our arid climate, so that's what they have heirloom seeds of, to make sure you don't go hungry, blah, blah, blah. So we might start that on our lonesome. Just have, seeds are going to be like currency. Just saying. Get ready. Here it comes. Peace.